I think we have one more washout, maybe this month and next month. And then I think the Fed, the central bank, governments will be throwing everything into the pot. And you'll have a 2-year highly inflationary blow-off, which will take equity markets doubling from their lows, metal prices doubling from their lows. But then you've got to be very careful, because inflation will probably repeat what we saw in 1980, which is double-digit inflation in America, double-digit inflation globally. So what does that mean for 10-year, 20 and 30-year treasuries? Double digits. And what is that going to do? Crash. So enjoy the cycle. Trump has been forced to take the whole of the US naval fleet out of the Red Sea and surrounding areas, because they've so far lost 3 of these fighter jets. They've lost 7 drones, and they've spent some $3 billion in trying to defeat the Houthis without success. And apparently the decision was made without any reference to Israel, which has thrown Israel under the bomb, as it were. So what's going on between Iran and America? There is this very close tripartite agreement between Russia, China, and Iran. They don't make a move without discussing what the move might be. In their relationships with America, they will stand firm and will not be bullied into submission. A few days ago, Trump issued a statement saying any country accepting oil or petrochemicals from Iran will be barred forever from exporting anything to America. Now, since China receives about 90% of its oil imports from Iran, it was clearly focusing on China. So at the moment, there is no negotiations between Iran and America on nuclear enrichment. Trump has openly stated also that Iran should not have any uranium for peaceful means, and Iran has them for medical purposes, particularly cancer. It's unlikely that Iran be bullied into submission, and whether Trump is able to swallow pride and allow some insubstantial agreement to be made is an open question. He wants a deal for domestic purposes. Whether he will swallow that pride, I'm not prepared to say. But what we do know is that if Trump insists on no nuclear at all, peace or enrichment for nuclear missiles, then Iran is just going to say bye-bye. What we are going to see is that over the summer, Russia's main forces will move towards the Dnieper River, if not beyond. And then you've got some 300,000 Russian troops in the northeast that can march towards or move towards Kiev to take Kiev over. And in the south, you've got another 100,000 that can move towards Aleppo and take Aleppo over. Then if that happens, Putin basically controls all of Ukraine. Then he will say to Trump, now we start and talk about the real issues, of which Ukraine is part of the complete picture. Now, that's not likely to happen until the winter months of this year at the earliest. But we have to look at what's going on in London, Paris, and Berlin, as these delusional leaders believe that Ukraine should be supported in trying to defeat Russia. This is serious stuff, and there are people who know their way around the traps who are saying this could well happen this summer. So you have to ask the questions, why? The electorates in all these countries are walking away from wanting to be controlled or influenced from Brussels, particularly Germany and France. They've got huge intercentral bank debt problems. They've got migrant issues. So they're looking for something that turns people's attentions away from their own domestic problems into another issue, i.e. war, which is often how wars are created. So I'm not saying that this will happen. I'm merely saying there's a big risk that the war in Ukraine will escalate later this year. I think the business people in the EU look at China as being that it is worth recovering that market. Politically, I don't think there is a warming. I mean, coming back again to trade, people are saying, oh, the Chinese economy is going to be killed because if tariffs remain at high levels, China will not be able to export to America. Well, actually, if you look at the relationship of China's consumption to China's exports, consumption is, in round numbers, 3 times higher than their exports. So if you take last year, China's exports as a percentage of GDP was around 52.2%. If you go back to what it was 3 years earlier, which was 54.5%, then the increase in consumption would more than match the whole of China's exports to America. So what is China's leadership doing? There is a general sense in China that, to put it in the words of a friend of mine who was recently there is a call for arms against enemy number one, which is America. So China's households have huge savings. McKinsey did a study saying their gross savings, I think, comes to $20 trillion. So you only have to persuade households to spend a bit more, and you spur the domestic economy and you reduce their reliance on exports. But something deeper is happening, which is China is using the crisis to clean out the surpluses that exist in so many of China's manufacturing chains. It's always been a highly competitive nation. They compete between regions, between states. If, like for EVs, a new product is seen to be a growing one, everybody wants to be in the play. So you build this enormous surplus capacity, you destroy profit margins, and now they're going to use this crisis to cleanse the whole system, allow failures, allow bankruptcies. Those companies that have a future will be merged with SOEs. So China is using this crisis in a profitable manner. Isn't that a capitalist system with Chinese characteristics? It's the same in America. You have bankruptcies and you have mergers. They are allowing now bankruptcies to take place. And those companies that can be merged with profitable SOEs will be merged. So you are culling the bad companies. So you end up with a much more vibrant system, and vibrant profit-wise too. Margins will rise. And then you think about what is China's manufacturing system really doing that worries Washington. They already have the world's most efficient manufacturing supply chain that can outpace quality-wise as quantity-wise anywhere else in the world. But now what they are doing, which is why America is so fearful, is they are applying that efficient manufacturing supply chain with the latest automation, robotics, and IT to make that manufacturing sector so efficient and competitive that others will not be able to compete. I mean, to give one example, which was supplied to me by an American tech consultancy company, which is that on a shop floor, there is not one human being, and it is producing a smartphone every minute. And that's just one example. There are many others. The strategic alliance between Russia and Iran is not just military, it's economic, financial. And on the military side, there is no firm agreement that should Iran be attacked, that Russia would immediately come to Iran's aid. Russia believes, I think, that Iran could actually manage on its own, but if necessary, and they get a call from Tehran, come and help us, then they will. I think so far as Russia and Israel is concerned, that early on in the Ukrainian war, Russia was very loath to be aggressive against Israel because of the number of Russian Jews in Israel. But when Russia learned about Israel's support for Ukraine, particularly satellite intelligence, then I believe that Russia has turned much more belligerent against Israel. And it then comes back into Russia was, of course, supporting Assad, just as Iran was. And now that Israel is almost by its bombing raids in Syria, trying to achieve control over Syria. So again, that is contrary to what Russia would like to see being the outcome. It's a complicated triangular relationship, and it also involves Turkey. And I think that Turkey was part of the Israel cooperation, putting HTS in place. But now, from what I was hearing, it looks as though Turkey is now going to become much more belligerent against Israel. So that's another front that can open up. I mean, one's beginning to wonder whether Trump is allowing Israel to be their big bridgehead into the region, and at the same time trying to woo Saudi Arabia and the UAE with offers of military equipment, nuclear umbrella. Trump is arriving in the region. Obviously, one of the reasons is to get UAE and Saudi to increase oil production. We said a few weeks ago that what will result is an oil price below 50 when he gets back, which obviously will bring gasoline prices in America down sharply. I mean, there are people who think that a war between Iran, Israel, and America is inevitable. Question is timing. One way of looking at timing is to look at what oil prices are likely to do. So I've worked with our technical associate for probably 30 years. So I went into what his forecasts for oil prices are to see if that gives me some signals. And it did. So we have an oil price down to below 50 in the coming weeks, months. Then next year, we have oil prices 75 to 85. And then in 2027, we have oil prices spiking at 150. So that would rather indicate that the war is likely in 2027, 2028, which actually fits other things that one picks up. It was a Modi false flag operation in Kashmir. Modi was trying to break the alliance between Pakistan and America so that America focuses far less on Pakistan and much more on India. Whether this is Modi starting to tiptoe away from BRICS, I don't know. But it's almost an agreement between the two governments that let's keep a conflict going without escalation for 2 to 3 years, because Modi's popularity in India is waning at a time that the Congress parties is increasing, and you can see it in the numbers. And in Pakistan, the government is very unpopular. So you have a conflict, you agree no escalation, and it suits both governments. And again, what's interesting is almost an equal number of people being killed on either side, an equal number of drone-aircraft being shot down. As my friend in Pakistan said, it's very strange. He is quite adamant that it's a false flag operation and is now designed to help both governments. So bottom line is, don't believe the media that's saying this is serious. Both countries have nuclear missiles. It's being blown up. So it's really back to normalcy. So I don't see any big escalation of conflict into war.